Hello, good night. This is U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharp. I'm here live to take your U.S. immigration related questions. I'm also here to talk about important changes that have happened, that have been announced. We want to talk about those and the implications of those very quickly. So welcome to the live, and go ahead, put your questions in the comments so I can answer your questions. Now, two major changes. One is regarding the USCIS. So the Department of Homeland Security Secretary has now said that the USCIS, they're going to designate officers in the USCIS who will be authorized to carry out certain law enforcement type activities similar to ICE. And this is at the USCIS. What they'll be focusing on is targeting fraud. And so they will have the authority to go ahead and issue warrants, search warrants, arrest, and they can apprehend and detain as well. Now, I want you to keep in mind that this is not for the purpose of just targeting people who don't have their papers. What they are focused on is certain wrongdoing, and repeatedly, what I have seen is they're focusing on fraud. So you don't want to be in a situation where you are suspected of fraud, or you're associated with any fraudulent activities. Now, when we talk about fraud, it's, for example, submitting fake documents, submitting fake information on your applications. Having a scammer lawyer or a scammer notario or a document preparer submit false documentation. Those can then open up the door for a USCIS officer to carry out certain law enforcement. So they basically, if your application is flagged, then an officer who has this designation would be able to then carry out the activities of law enforcement and law enforcement agent by actually issuing warrants, possibly showing up to do a search, apprehend, to arrest. They also would have the ability to issue bond, so detain and have the discretion to issue bond. Now, keep in mind that as long as you're following the law, so you're making sure that your application is honest, that you do in fact qualify for what you're applying for, that you do not have any omissions or intent willfully include false information in your applications, you should be fine. Keep in mind that this should not change. You should not, because these types of policies too, it is there to intimidate. And as long as you know that you are doing, first of all, by applying, you are doing your best to comply with the law by gaining legal status. And furthermore, you're not. So for example, when my clients, we go in, our intention is not fraudulent. As long as your intention is not fraudulent, they are not going to come after you. Now, and when we are applying for things like adjustment of status for our clients, they qualify for it. Adjustment of status gives certain protections while they make a decision. What I would say here, though, is in order to avoid situations like that, because in the past year, I have seen a number of immigrants who have come to me to say, they didn't understand immigration when they came. They came here and then they met these document preparers, people who are not attorneys. They may pose as attorneys. They may say they're paralegals. They may say they're immigration specialists. Many of them have unfortunately, they have committed fraud. That these are scammers. These are fraudsters that submit false applications to get work permits for certain immigrants. And unfortunately, a number of immigrants, they didn't intend. They thought that whatever these people are doing was lawful, but you need to make sure that when you are talking to somebody to hire them to pursue your documents, that they are clearly explaining to you how you qualify, what's the plan. For example, when I'm representing my clients, we do not file anything without our clients first looking at it. They look at it, they acknowledge it, they know what, they ask questions, they know what we're filing, they know why we're filing it. They give us permission, they review their statements, they provide their statements, they review their statements, they make sure everything is true and correct. So if somebody is saying they're gonna get your papers, don't worry, I'm gonna get your work permit, and you start to ask questions and they're not giving you a clear cut answer, they're just like, don't worry, I'm gonna get this for you. You need to, ask questions, or that may not be the right person for you if they're not keeping you privy as to what you need, how you qualify, what you need to submit. You need to be very wary of that, right? So get an experienced, reputable attorney who is established in immigration law, understands immigration law, and no, I tell you, no is not. Even if the document preparers, they have the best intentions, things can get very complicated very quickly, and they are not equipped to deal with that level of complexity. So that's the first change. But listen, this is it to me. I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't apply to any of my clients because my clients are complying with the law. They are doing it the way they're supposed to be doing it. And so I'm not worried about that. And you shouldn't be too, as long as you take these steps necessary to protect yourself. One, make sure you're getting legal advice. You are checking what you qualify for. You're making sure you're qualifying and you're applying for the right types of applications. So that's the first step. Two, as I said before, don't go ahead and hire just anybody. Don't go hire document preparers because you're trying to cut corners or save money. They're cheaper. If that money is too good to be true, it's really too good to be true. If it's cheap, it's too good to be true, right? Or too cheap, I should say. If it's too cheap, it's too good to be true, right? And they may cause you damage later on. Know your applications front to back. We provide our clients copies of everything through their client portal. They can always log in and review their documents. They can print their documents. They can have questions. They can request changes on the documents, and of course, we have discussions based on my own knowledge of the law. But make sure you have access and copies. So many times I hear, oh, this person, they're not a lawyer, they filed my papers for me, and now I got a request for evidence and I don't know how to respond, and now they're telling me they're not a lawyer, and now they're telling me that, oh, too bad, too sad, go call a lawyer, they can't deal with it. Or they disappear on them and they can't get copies of their application. So know your application front to back, know what's in it, make sure everything is true and correct, and make sure that make sure you are filling out all the information in there. Sometimes even omitting information can trigger a fraud investigation, because they may construe that, especially now that they're uber sensitive to these, they may construe that as willful omission of information. For example, don't leave your kids out of your application. Sometimes, depending on how the kids can change eligibility, criteria, if you skip you leave your kids out, maybe you forget, guess what, you can end up in a situation where they think you intentionally left your kids out because you wanted an immigration benefit. um, get legal advice and this is the reason why you have an attorney. You have an attorney who is there to advise you on the effect of each answer and how to approach it. If you are not certain of how to answer a question, stop and hire a lawyer. Full stop. Now is not the time to joke. You will never hear me say do it without a lawyer. But before, it's kind of like it's your choice. It's still your choice, but I am strongly advising now is not the time to go through this process. Immigration law, by the way, guys, immigration law and tax law are the most complicated forms of law. And a lot of people oversimplify it and say, oh, it's just simple paperwork. Immigration law is the most complex laws out there. So there are a lot of things that you're just applying this application maybe for the first time. There's no way you're gonna have the kind of knowledge to understand why you're answering certain questions, why you can't leave certain questions out, right? So make sure you are filling out all the answers, that you're confident in your answers, that you're not doubtful, you understand why you have to answer those questions, and be prepared for the interview. Make sure you're gathering the right documentation, required documentation, the right documents to attach to your application to make it solid. So keep those in mind. And we're here to help. We are 24 hours a day. We're answering our phones 24 hours a day because we know that the people need assistance, and we're working around the clock to give that assistance. Now, the other change, moving on to I sent out a newsletter tonight, and there's a lot of news. I am highlighting the major policy changes that will affect applications, but of course, we have, TPS ending for Venezuelans. Again, of course, that's going to go through litigation. We have in Florida, the alligator Alcatraz has Court of Appeals has said they can continue to detain people at alligator Alcatraz, so that's now open again. But keep in mind, these detention centers are opening up all across the country. And what they're doing is they're detaining people in one state and then moving them to other states without explanation, without notice. So you could be in Florida one day, you were living in Florida, and if you're stopped in a traffic stop, they pick you up, and in a day, they fly you to Texas, right? So we're seeing that happening, and it is frustrating because it now, if you don't have an attorney, good luck being in Texas and your family is in Florida, right? So make sure that you have a plan in place. And uh, I will say this: if you can get relief before, that has helped our clients to get relief from detention by having qualifications for immigration benefits. And there are options out there that you don't know about. And this is, if you look at my videos, if you look at my clients, I do have videos of my clients talking about their experiences. They came to me not knowing what to do, not understanding that they had the rights or they had a way, and that changed their lives. And this is those stories those video testimonies that I have posted on my site. You can go look at them. Very moving, very touching. That's why I continue to fight for my clients. That's why I continue to do what I do. And what my clients have to say, it is the experience of most of my clients is they did not know that they had this option, and we were able to identify. But in all cases, citizenship, make marriage based, family based, they are no longer just simple. You should not be counting them as simple and straightforward. Make sure that you're getting the help so you can avoid complications in your case. The so the other change that we're looking at is citizenship again, guys. So while we haven't seen there, let me rephrase that. This is not an official change yet. However, the USCIS director has signaled that change is coming to the citizenship test. So he had at a public event, he had commented that the citizenship test is too easy and they are going to make it more challenging. And that means that they're going to even put things in there, like they're going to put harder questions. And he said maybe even an essay where there's a requirement to write an essay about why they should be US citizens, why they believe they need to be US citizens. And of course, yes, that would put the bar very high. Keep in mind, now is the time to apply for citizenship to avoid changes like that. Make sure you qualify, go for it. A lot of what we're seeing in the media, this is definitely there to intimidate immigrants, but the law is still there. And immigration is still following the law. On the back end, when cases are still being approved, they're still moving forward. So keep that in mind, guys, that yes, you have immigration enforcement, but the way you protect yourself is by applying for benefits and relief that you do qualify for. And we evaluate those options to see what you qualify for. So that those are the two highlighted changes. If you would like to get updates regularly, just go ahead and go to the link in the profile. You go to the website, you can just fill out the form, and it will also subscribe you to our newsletter so that you can get updates as well. And I know that is stressful. I know for me, right now, I'm focused on immigration, and a lot of the news, I just try to stay away from it. I don't stay away from immigration news. I wish I could, but I have to pay attention to immigration news. And I'm saying this because my newsletters are it's not there to stress you out. I know there's a lot of overwhelming information in there, but it's there to empower you, right? You know, if you look at this, you will, I provide you information in there not only about the change, but how does it affect you? What are some steps that you could take to protect yourself? So it is useful. Everything I'm doing is focusing on empowerment, being solution oriented, and focusing on the law. So when I look at these changes, I immediately think about, okay, what are the implications? What does this mean for my clients or potential clients or immigrants out there? What does this mean? And what's the solution? Right? There's always a solution. So if we, and it's my job to figure out those solutions. All right, so now I'm going to answer questions. I'm going to start on TikTok and work my way around. Hi, Judith. Thanks so much for your positivity. I really appreciate that. I appreciate all your positive vibes. I appreciate the love on TikTok, the follows, the gifts. Thank you so much. It means a lot. And it also means other people are seeing the live so they can also get information that empowers them. All right, so I'm going to go through the questions quickly. So you are in Florida. We represent clients in all 50 states and the globe. We are based in Florida. So sounds like you are definitely in our vicinity. But no matter where you are, we can help you. So give us a call. We are 24 hours. We have bilingual staff, so both Spanish and English, available to be able to help. We are aiming to be available to help as many people as possible. All right. Are they deporting green card holders from multiple speeding tickets? No. It's not a deportable offense. However, if you're going for citizenship, it can raise questions about good moral character. So you want, and we can guide you on that. Guide you on that so that you could possibly still overcome any negative views of the tickets, because that's going to be essential. Even minor issues now, delinquent debts, delinquent child support, which that was there before, but they're going to be paying more attention to those things. Maybe even infidelity in your marriage can now lead them to question your good moral character. But speeding tickets could affect citizenship, but it's not deportable. Prima facie approved almost a year. I didn't get a work permit. Do I still just wait or can I apply? If you qualify for adjustment of status. So if you're qualified for adjustment of status, then you apply for the work permit. Once and it depends, your priority date has to become current before you apply for adjustment of status. So definitely you need to talk to your attorney. I have a hearing for VAWA. Is it advisable to go? Please. Now, this is a common question. Should you go to your biometrics appointment? It really is your choice. And I would say it's really a choice on a case by case. The way I advise would have to be on a case by case basis. I can never tell somebody not to comply with the law, but what I can say here is if you have a biometrics appointment because you applied for something you qualify for, if you don't do the biometrics appointment, they're not going to approve it. So you have to look at, okay, I am applying for something that's going to protect me. I'm applying for a benefit that's going to protect me, that I am qualified for, and I want to see through to that approval because it means you're going to get protection, right? When you look at that versus the risk of possible detention, I would say you definitely want to get to the solution. And we have not been seeing issues, now I knock on wood, it doesn't mean it won't happen. It doesn't mean that it won't happen. Excuse me, let me just check on something. All right. It's late at night, and I have a little guard dog, so I wanted to make sure everything was okay. Um, so yeah, you you want to make sure you get to the solution. You want to make sure that if you don't comply with it, then you're not going to get the relief. So keep that in mind and seek legal advice. We can definitely advise you on which way to go. But if you want it, you have to go to that biometrics appointment. Which part of Florida? So we're in Delray Beach, Florida. And you'll see it on our website. If you click on the link to the page, you'll see the address there as well. And we also have an office in Boca and their neighboring towns. After 1 month, filed interview has been scheduled before work permits or social. Yes, we are seeing interviews coming fast. That's an opportunity to get your green card fast. So that's great news, right? When you get your interview quickly, it's time to get your evidence together, prep for the interview. Make sure it depends on what kind of interview it's going to be. If it's spouse, you make sure that you are both on the same page. Let's see. Question: my son is dual. Does that affect his status a dual citizen? If he's a U.S. citizen, I don't know what you mean by dual. Dual is in other citizenships or U.S. citizenship. I mean, if he's a U.S. citizen, it should be fine. It's okay, safe to take airplane with green card while having a DUI conviction. Great question. Any criminal offense is going to put you at risk. So you want to definitely talk to an attorney. When it comes to criminal offenses, guys, I would be doing an injustice by saying, oh, that's fine, making an assumption. I would be doing you an injustice and a disservice. That's because, really, when it comes to criminal conduct, it is so specific, and it means that people, it depends on the state laws, it depends on the facts in the case, it depends on did you disclose the DUI, it depends on whether it was a new crime. We actually have to carefully review this issue, the offense, and then tell you based on the specific offense what to expect and how to move forward strategically. In some cases, you may qualify to get forgiveness, right? If it's inadmissible. In other cases, it won't have an effect. You just have to disclose it, right? Because if you don't disclose it, then that turns into possible accusations of fraud. So I say you any criminal offense is going to put you at an increased risk, so you need to check that out and have an attorney advise you. We do that here, so you can talk to us, and we can do that initial evaluation to advise you on what the effects are and what direction to go in from there. A DUI could definitely affect your eligibility for citizenship now. I want to apply for citizenship too. So, yes, you need to talk to us. One DUI conviction. So, previously, one DUI conviction would not be a big concern. However, now it is going to be a big concern. It's going to be a big deal. The reason being, anything. If you have delinquent debt, if you have, unpaid child support, if there's conduct in your background that is not within the typical types of behaviors from citizens in your community, they're going to look in your area, and if it's not typical conduct, they can then turn around and deny you for failing to show good moral character. So the way that we have to do this now is we would have to be able to overcome the DUI. So it's not impossible. And this is where we say we rise to the challenge, right? Here are these new requirements. What does it take to succeed? And in this case, with a DUI, now we have to look at what positives do you have that could overcome the negative of the DUI. Was the DUI a long time ago? And in this case, we're attaching a legal brief on the top to be able to advocate for you with additional evidence. And so we're focused on how long ago was the DUI? Was it a long time ago? If it was a long time ago, then we can show you're rehabilitated. Possibly doctors' letters attesting to the fact that you are not an alcoholic or you don't have any kind of substance addictions or addiction to alcohol, which could be an issue for citizenship as well. Have you done other positive things? Are you a committed parent, or are you committed to your family? Do you have dependents? Those could be some positives to be able to overcome the DUI issue. So it just goes to show now citizenship isn't just black and white. I would say it was more like a black and white situation, but now it's very much on a case by case basis. The officer has a lot more discretion, and they have a different way of looking at good moral character now. I-130 was just approved for my spouse in Jamaica. How long before we get the interview? Congratulations. I would say a year and a half to 2 years. So they're going to send it to the National Visa Center next. I would say within about a week of the approval, you get a nice email saying, welcome, log in. We're going to go ahead. And if your spouse is a US citizen, then they're going to go ahead and tell you all the documents that you need. It's very important this can be a very frustrating stage and it can cause delays. I was talking about this last night. It can cause delays if you make mistakes. A single mistake can lead to 6 month delay, and that's because they're very specific at the NVC about how documents should be formatted. What's with affidavits of support? A lot of times people make major mistakes with the affidavits of support that get rejected, and even in adjustment of status as well. So remember that affidavit of support, you need to pay attention and have an attorney make sure they're the ones preparing it. So after you do that, all being well, everything is done properly from the get-go. I would say within 3 to 6 months, you get a notification saying, okay, we accept everything. Now you're in like a waiting period for the interview. Jamaica, our experience is that the interview, to get the interview, a year and a half to 2 years, unfortunately. The wait is that long. If you do have an emergency, or you could request an expedite. However, they are very, very strict that you need to meet certain criteria, like it has to be a medical emergency, for example. With battery, can you ask for a U visa? It's possible, but we have to get the facts to determine whether that specific crime qualifies. I live in Florida. I'm getting a job out of state. I'm still waiting for interviews, marriage based. So I guess you can, I don't know what your situation is. I don't know if you have your work permit. I don't know what it's hard to say. If you're concerned about being separated from your spouse, how is that going to be? If that's a reality of your situation where you have to work away from your spouse, you just have to make sure that you show how your marriage is still real and the fact that you just had to work away from home for a little bit. All right, so I'm moving on to Facebook and YouTube now. Hello there, Agiwa. A friend on VAWA applied for renewal of EAD, I think, in September 8th, 2024, which expired April 2025, using 6 month extension. Up till now, they are not giving an answer to him. They don't pick call. And that's the frustrating part. We've seen it take up to a year to get the renewal back. So it's frustrating. Hi, Judith. Approximately how long to take for a law firm to prepare for T visa applications and docs to submit to the USCIS? So we move as quickly as possible, but we are not a McDonald's drive-through. And trust me, you don't want us to work like that and create sloppy applications. Right now, the approvals are in the details. So we move as quickly as possible, but we are not going to take shortcuts. We are not going to rush it along and cause bad consequences for your case in the future. But we are moving at a pace, understanding the circumstances. But at the end of the day, what do our clients want? They want to get to a success. Success is not built on taking shortcuts and rushing something along. And as a matter of fact, a lot of people face terrible circumstances doing things like that. And it's going to happen if for even in supposedly simple, straightforward cases like marriage based. I've seen so many people just try to put some paperwork together because they just think it's about filling out forms and submitting it. Well, now they're going to face consequences. Everything must be done thoroughly and completely. So we move as quickly as possible. We start working right away. But for example, if our client has complex issues, if we need to request a document that has to be included in that packet before, rest assured we are going to do that before we file it, right? We're going to make sure you review it. We're going to take all the steps. It's called due diligence, and it's what has made this law firm successful, because we're about the quality of our work, not the necessarily the um, you know we're not speeding anything up that is going to compromise the result. Hi there, Kate. It's nice to see you. Thank you for your help for the BFD letter and EAD. You've received at the same time for the T visa. How long did you wait for it? What month did you submit the application? So it took about 6 months. Hopefully we start to see more of those, because that was the first one we got together, and it's the first one that we've gotten within 6 months. Usually it's 8 to 10 months. Do you do Canada to USA E2 visa processing? Yes. Should you qualify, you can give us a call, and then we can talk about those potential qualifications. Now, to qualify for the E2 treaty investor visa, you do have to make sure that you're meeting certain, so that you're coming to the US to establish a business, that you have the means to establish that business by showing you're going to make a substantial investment in that business. And there's very specific ways to show that. So we look to see if you can meet those requirements, and then we go ahead and apply for the E2 for you. Hello, T visa receipts, July 24th, fingerprints done in October 24th. Anxiety plays a role here. So what is next? Thanks for everything. I understand, definitely understand that there's a lot of anxiety, and rightfully so. It's a scary time, and there's a lot going on. There's a lot of risk now. Next step, if it's a T visa, is bona fide determination. Well, it was July 24th. So you may not get it. Next step is you're going to have to expect a decision. So a decision, if they have questions, they'll send a request for evidence first. And then but bona fides, we're noticing they're prioritizing people who submitted their applications for bona fide determinations after August 28th, 2024. You're very welcome, Jamie Lee. All right. I am on Instagram. It's nice to see you here. Thanks, everybody, for your questions. These are great questions. In tourist visa B1, B2 in USA, I want a way to stay to the green card. We'd have to evaluate whether you qualify. There are over 21 ways to get to the green card. We need to figure out which one could possibly relate to you. But you need to act fast because you're here on a B1, B2. But we would have to look at, do you qualify to stay for adjustment of status even after overstaying? I mean, we don't want you to overstay, but if you were wanting to get to the green card, is there a way to stay and do it? Even if you've overstayed, can you still apply? We have to look at, what ties do you have here to the US that qualifies you for the green card? Or do you have an investment? Do you have an employer that wants to sponsor you? So this is where, talking to us is going to be essential. Hello, good night. I have an upcoming USCIS green card appointment. Any advice to give as to what to expect? So is it marriage based? What I would say, I'm going to assume that it is marriage based or family based. Marriage based, you're going to want to make sure you gather all updated evidence of the marriage. Bring a copy of everything you've already submitted. Look at the notice, the interview letter, and bring everything that's applicable to you on that interview notice. Make sure you and your spouse do, for example, for our clients, we do a mock interview. That helps them to, get the vibe, understand, how to approach questions, prepare for questions. It helps the spouses to even identify their perspectives, right? And to be able to reconcile those perspectives. So, any memory issues that the spouses are having, they can talk through those issues. So, I do have sample questions that I provide in along with subscribing to the newsletter. You would be able to sign up for those sample interview letter, that interview question. So go ahead, do that. You can go to the link in the profile. And I think if you scroll down on Linktree, you'll see the option to get sample interview questions that can help. Bring original documents. So make sure that you're bringing your passport, of course. Make sure you bring your birth certificate, original, marriage certificate, bring the original. Any other documents, if you have children, make sure you bring the original. If you have any issues in your background, like criminal conduct, get legal advice first. Make sure your attorney is ready for that. But bring in certified documents showing disposition, like the decision on the case, if it was dismissed, if you're found guilty. If you're found not guilty, make sure you bring that. A possible arrest record, if that is applicable. As for evidence for the spouse, if it's a marriage base, look at updated evidence. Have you gathered any more documentation showing that you are building a meaningful life or making meaningful moves to build a life with your spouse? Are you applying for, do you have joint bills together? Do you have an active bank account together? Do you have utility bills? Do you have a shared lease? That's usually a biggie, having a shared lease, a joint lease, joint bank account. Those are typical things that they like to see. But if you don't have those, then how else can you show? Those are the things that we help our clients with, right? Because married couples are different. Not everybody is the same. And you should not try to be like the other married couple if you're not like that. So, for example, if you're not on a shared lease together, how can you show you're living together? Maybe the landlord can attest to it. Maybe neighbors can talk about you. Maybe your friends and family can talk about the fact that they've observed you living together. That's an example of alternative evidence to the joint lease. If you don't share a joint bank account, and some couples are like that, they just don't mingle their funds. In that case, then what you do is you show how do you deal with finances? Do you send each other money? For example, I've represented clients that they didn't have joint bank account, but they sent each other money to cover expenses through Cash App or one of those. So we showed that instead, and it turned out to be fine because that's just how they do things as a married couple. So, put those things together. Put your pictures in an updated album, like a little nice, cute album. Put your best pictures in there, but make sure it shows it's diverse, not just your wedding photos, right? A lot of people think that, oh, well, I'll just show my wedding photos and I'll be fine. Make sure you're showing your, photos, different times, different holidays, different seasons, different people on both sides of your family. That's what they like to see. And make sure you know who's in the pictures, because they do go through questions and ask, who is this? Who is that? Where were you? What were you doing there? I still have a 3 months. I'm not overstaying at moment. I have a bachelor's degree. So definitely get in touch and we can evaluate whether you qualify for something. I do not, I don't offer recruitment services. So I don't find employers for people. Usually the employer has to come to us to petition for their employee. So that's how that works. So and what we do is we look at all the possible options, based on your circumstances. Yes, marriage based. Thank you. I'll definitely do the link tree and subscribe. Perfect. Yes, you'll find it very helpful. What can be done if one was misled by a doc preparer or scammer? We would have to find out more. But in that case, you may, for example, if you didn't truly qualify, and I cannot tell you specifically to do this, but if you did not, the key is to fix it before immigration calls you out on it. Because once immigration calls you out on it, you're now in defense. It means that they are going to go the full extent and say you committed fraud, right? They're going to take that accusation to the next level. So the key is, if so, for example, here's a scenario that would where I would possibly want to advise my client on these actions. If my client came to me and said, I went to a doc preparer, they told me they were going to apply for my work permit and my travel document and my green card, and I thought they were doing everything legally. They told me, don't worry about it. But then later on, you see that they were arrested on the news. They were arrested for this, for fraud. And you realize, wait a minute, I didn't conspire with them. I was a victim. Then in that case, law enforcement, for the scam. And of course, so sometimes what we do is we represent our clients, so we will report to the law enforcement on behalf of our clients, just depending if they qualify for like the U visa. But reporting it so that is on record that you were scammed, you're the victim, and then looking at whether my client should withdraw that application. And withdraw the application, sometimes you don't have to give an explanation. In this case, though, what they are saying is that if you file previous petitions and then you file a following petition, they're going to reopen the other petition to look at it. So you may want to be able to provide a proof showing you were the victim in this situation. You believed that you qualified, but you also have to look at the risks right now, and what works for you. What plans would you have in place, or what plans would the client have in place in the case that they're issued a notice to appear, right? Because now they don't qualify and they've closed out the case. But at least in that situation, they wouldn't be accusing you of fraud. So, it's really comes down to a lot of strategy, and it comes down to individual circumstances. But I'm just giving you an example of, a similar situation. Can I be an insurance agent while being a student? If you are not authorized to work, being an insurance agent means you're working. So if you don't have your work authorization, you shouldn't be an insurance agent because you will be flagged for working. I'm on an H-2B worker, I guess the visa, got married to a US citizen. Do you need your I-797 to file the paperwork? So that's really very specific, and it depends. It really depends on where you are in the process, right. So I wouldn't be able to answer that just because I don't know, you know, I don't know your circumstances. You just need to show your visa, right? Show a copy of your legal entry, your I-94, and a copy of your visa, not necessarily the I-797 of the H-2B, I guess. I think you're asking, what do I need to get a passport? So I don't do passport services, so you would have to contact somebody else. I'm a Jamaican citizen and want to return home. How do I get a passport? I have been in America since 73 and never had a passport. Oh, wow. You can always give us a call for us to evaluate whether you qualify for any options. But if you're making the choice to leave, you'd have to contact the Jamaican consulate. They do have procedures in place to issue passports to people here in the US. So you'd have to start there. But you've been here for so long, I definitely want to talk to you to find out what your situation is. I honestly think no one wants to immigrate to the USA anymore. It's a hellhole. I understand that frustration for sure. However, a lot of people, this is their home. It's not even about them coming here, it's the fact they're already here and they've been here for a long time. They've built their life here, and that is now compromised. So it's about finding the legal pathway and the solution here for those individuals that um, want to stay, want to stay because they have their family here, want to stay because they know they have no option to go home because they will literally die if they go home, or they will be seriously in danger or unstable. So, and those under the law, that still is available. But I understand you do have a number of people that are, including US citizens, that are just, over it. If your case has been approved by USIS and sent to NVC in your home country, can an attorney help to speed up the situation? How the attorney can help to speed up the situation is the attorney knows what to do. As I said previously, when it comes to any case, but consular processing, if you don't understand it, you could sit there for a full year, causing delays just based on maybe a single mistake or two mistakes. So the attorney can keep your process streamlined and smooth by simply understanding what to submit and how to submit things. But having an attorney alone is not going to speed up any process. And if any attorney tells you that, consider them a scammer. No attorney controls processing times. Hello, how long do you have to wait to get the work permit after the bona fide determination? So I would say another 2 to 4 months after bona fide determination to get the work permit. I'm a student and I want to be an insurance agent. So if you are on F1, you're not supposed to be working in most situations and you can't be an insurance agent. Um, all right. Let me see. Any more questions? Oh, okay, we have some more. I was told by other lawyer in a major city it'll take 8 months to prepare and submit for T visa to USCIS. Maybe because they're in a major city, I'd be worried. So that attorney is actually, because T visas are complicated, right? If you qualify, it is a solid option. It protects you. However, you're not getting to that T visa because it is complex, right? And while we make it look easy, right, because we are taking care of everything for our clients, so we tend to make it look easy. we are having to make sure we're focused on gathering the right information to provide to immigration. And sometimes that takes time. Sometimes it does take additional time to get additional documents. I wouldn't say just 8 months flat. We move as quickly as possible, but and how fast we move just depends on the complexity of the case, whether we have to wait for certain information. But that lawyer is saying that because they have to be very focused on detail, right? They have to be focused on detail, and it really depends on the complexity of the case. Yes, yes. So I wouldn't say that's a red flag. 8 months, that means that the attorney is being diligent. Well, hopefully they're being diligent. Sometimes attorneys are busy, and that sometimes attorneys are busy and maybe they take longer than they should. In our case, we focus on detail and we do focus on making sure we have enough staff to give each of our clients personal attention. However, you have to. Those are the questions that you should ask. If why would it take 8 months? And if the attorney says something like, "Well, I'm busy," maybe that's a red flag. But if it's, we need to pay attention, these are the steps that we need to take to be diligent, I would say that is a green flag for sure. It means that they care about detail. 2 months ago, I applied for N400. My 2-year-old baby was born and lives in Colombia. Can I apply for N600 for her? So your 2-year-old would have to be sponsored first. So they'd have to become a green card holder. But what happens is once you file for your 2-year-old baby, they get the green card and they get to come. They automatically become a U.S. citizen. Once you're a citizen, then they will come in as a green card holder and then become a citizen right on the spot, and you can apply for their green card and then submit the N600 for them. So you should be focused on getting your citizenship approved. You can give us a call. Let's talk about how your application looks. Make sure we put a solid application together, because trust me, you don't want it to end up in a pile of maybes or a pile of we need to look further into this. As I said before, citizenship, they're doing good neighbor checks, which means if you don't provide all the documents they need, like even letters of recommendation or character letters, they will put your application to the side and say, okay, we're going to take some time to go on into your neighborhood. And remember, they only have so many people doing this. So they're going to go to your job, go to your neighborhood, talk to your neighbors. So it's important to put a solid application together so that officer can review it and say, okay, they're confident in what they're seeing and they don't have to do all of that. They can just approve. So focus on your citizenship, and then your baby. You can file the documentation for your baby to, and you could actually sponsor your child from being a green card holder. So this is where I say strategy is everything, because you could be pursuing citizenship and petitioning for your child at the same time. So once you get citizenship, your child then moves on to get their visa to come in as a green card holder. That citizenship comes quickly. But being a green, sponsoring your baby and they're out of the country, you could expect that, at least a 2-year process. So you want to get a move on it. Can a green card holder partner file for I-485 while the I-130 still on, but the date is available? Yes. So if as long as everything lines up, but now is not the time to play games. Now is not the time to test and see. And you'll try. Talk to us. We can look at that. Your priority date has to become current. You have a pending I-130. If you have a pending I-130, priority date is current. You're here in the U.S. You have not overstayed That's very important. You apply for I-45 before overstay, then you would be able to adjust status. So conditions have to be right when you're the spouse of a green card holder. Faster option to file I-130 than the other forms for spousal green card, or file all forms together. So you don't want to be filing an I-130. Now, keep in mind, I can't give you personalized legal advice. I'm not your attorney. Everything on here is general information, but based on the USCIS changes in policy, and this is where I say it's very important to have an attorney, based on the changes, filing an I-130 alone with a spouse who's overstayed or who is about to overstay is is increasing the risk for your spouse or relative to get a notice to appear. If you do not have that document, the I-485, that says basically puts in place temporary protections for you to be able to pursue the green card, when that officer is evaluating the I-130 and they see that your relative or your spouse is in the US and they did not file an adjustment of status, they're like, okay, they overstayed, they don't have an adjustment of status, so that means they're here and they are not indicating they're applying for the green card. So let me go ahead and approve this. And while I'm at it, I'm going to issue a notice to appear for them so they can, have it out in immigration court. So this is where understanding procedural requirements, because most people are not going to think that way. But I am an attorney. I've been doing this a long time. When I look at those rules, I understand fully what the implication is and why they're saying petitions can lead relatives and spouses to be put in deportation. Petitions, right? Petitions without an adjustment of status. So this is where having an attorney to look at these things and be able to provide information or provide guidance that lowers the risk is going to be essential here. So you're here in the US, you qualify for adjustment of status, file everything together, basically, that as in adjustment of status, affidavit of support, medical, everything. But you must make sure you qualify, because if you don't qualify for it, you're also increasing your risk. More than a month since my expedite meets requirement and haven't heard from USCIS. Now, here's the thing. Asking for an expedite from USCIS really means, it could mean 30 days, it could mean 4 months, right? So if you're asking for an expedite of a case that normally takes 12 months, an expedite for them is like 4 months. So it's not out of the ordinary not to hear from them 30 days after. If you still haven't heard from them after 30 days, though, you can call and find out the status of the expedited request, and sometimes you can renew that request again. I have a 10-year green card. How soon can I apply for citizenship? 5 years if it's marriage based, 3 years if you're still living in marital union with your spouse. Now, be very wary of taking advice from anybody. I'm seeing somebody give advice here. Do not, and this is the problem, guys, if you're not an attorney, experienced immigration attorney, do not take advice from other people. Get legal advice, right? That's why I'm not giving legal advice here, but I give general information and I encourage you to get personalized legal advice. I mailed my removal of condition to Arizona instead of Dallas. It says delivered. Will they send it? You may get a rejection. So you need to keep an eye out for that. It might, because it's sent to the wrong place, it may cause delays. They may reject it too. My I-130 was approved for my spouse. How long before we may get the interview? So I answered this. I'd say prepare for 1.5 to 2 years. Can my friend apply for removal of condition if he's divorced now? Yes. he needs to contact us, or contact an experienced immigration attorney, but we do exactly that to help people to get through that process. So give us a call. Let's talk about it and get started. Can a US citizen send an invitation letter for a friend to get a visa to visit? It's not going to really make much of a difference. I mean, it's nice for the officer to know the reason, but they're really going to look at your friend's background to see their ties, to their country, and see if they have a high risk of overstay. Will they send it back to me so that I send it back? They may. So if they may reject it, and then you can send it to the right place. All right, everybody, I am going to head out. Thank you so much for your time tonight. I will be back tomorrow. What's the number? It's 561-405-4889. You'll see it going across the screen in blue. It's in that ticker. Call that number, or you can go to the link in the profile. The number is there on Linktree. You'll see the website. We're 24 hours a day. We have dedicated staff. We're all a close knit team. So when you call, you are talking to team members that are fully invested in helping you. We're all on the same mission here at this law firm. So give us a call and let's talk. You can also schedule your own appointment. Just fill out the initial evaluation form, and then then it will open it up to book your own appointment. Everything is confidential, so that is required as an attorney. It is the we have to make sure that we're upholding that standard of confidentiality. We are a safe space, so the first place you should be is talking to an immigration attorney. We can definitely talk to you about your situation, advise, check what you qualify for, look at strategic approaches to your particular situation. Can a green card holder partner? So I answered that. So if you are the spouse of a green card holder, get legal advice. If any situation now, um, get an attorney. That's what I'm saying right now. Get an attorney. It's going to be I just saw a survey too that talked about going through the immigration process. Those who were represented by attorneys were 3 times more likely to succeed. And I can attest to that. When I observe people who are not represented versus represented parties, it is the results can vary because the attorney knows what they're doing. They can navigate the process where chances are this person's applying for the very first time, and at that point they're just trying their luck. And this is not with law enforcement, with immigration enforcement, with strict policies in place. This is not a type of situation that you just sit down and fill out a form in pen and say, you're just filling out a form. Oh, they'll tell me if I miss something. You cannot depend. They're not your friends. Don't be calling USCIS to ask them legal advice. They can't give legal advice. And even if the person tries to, I've seen them give crappy information that gets people in trouble too, because they're really not there to advise you. So the attorney is going to be your friend here. So give us a call. Let's talk and let's get started on an option. All right. Have a good night, everybody. It was nice spending time with you. Thank you. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. That is how other people see information that's going to empower them and give them ideas about solutions, and most of all, to be able to reach out and get help. All right. I will talk to you tomorrow. Look out for me. And that's another reason why you should do all of those things, because then when I come on live, you'll see me and you'll be able to jump on with me and ask questions. I always love to answer questions. Thanks again for the likes. We have 4.6K likes. Thank you so much for that. And it means a lot, and it's going to make a difference for others as well. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye.